Welcome to Dogs Information. They have their humans completely wrapped around their paw. What about your dog? And is that always a good thing? Watch for these 11 signs to find out. Number 11. Imagine coming home to find your dog sprawled across the couch like it is their personal sunbathing lounge or curled in your bed with a pillow tucked under their chin. I imagine for a lot of you, you don't have to imagine. Your gorgeous pooch may be doing it literally right now. This is in one way. Wonderful thing. Sadly, some dogs live in homes where they don't feel welcome in every corner of the house because of how their owners behave. They may even be banned from rooms. So, the fact that you've created a vibe that makes your dog feel like they can do what they want where they want is wonderful. It's flattering that your dog feels safe enough to claim every corner of your home. But like most things in this video, what seems positive at first can actually be a springboard to something much more concerning. Boundaries can blur. Dogs who feel entitled to every space may react badly when those spaces are suddenly off limits, even temporarily. You might see territorial behaviors or stress if you close off a room, or even a subtle possessiveness when you sit in their spot, even though it is technically your house. Dr. Karen Overall explains that dogs form deep emotional connections to specific spaces just like we might to a stadium, a church, or a favorite pup. The more a dog controls access to high-value areas, the more emotionally invested and protective they become. This means that their comfort and ease with the space can spiral into a more resource-hoarding mindset, and that's an issue. Your dog should obviously feel welcome in your home, but they should never be possessive of it. Your dog claiming the couch is adorable, but if they start guarding it, growling, or refusing to move, what you're seeing is a classic case of a dog who's been a little too spoiled and isn't sure where the line is anymore. To fix this gently, use positive reinforcement. Teach off commands with treats to make leaving a space feel rewarding. And if you can, provide an alternative throne to the space they've become possessive of. A special bed or mat that always stays theirs builds security without territorial issues. If any of that felt familiar, wait for number 10. You are sitting on the couch holding a sandwich you've been waiting all day to eat. But as you try to tuck into it, the giant adorable eyes stare at you with the determined focus of Quentin Tarantino looking at a foot. Then things get taken to the next gear. A paw creeps onto your lap. Or maybe it's just flat out plopped onto you and it's hard to resist, right? So perhaps you share a bite. What's one little crumb between best friends? It may look and feel like sharing special moments and strengthening your emotional bond, which it does. And you knew a but was coming, at what cost? Long-term, a habit of feeding your dog meal scraps can lead to all sorts of problems, such as digestive upset and unhealthy cravings. And more than that, you will have times in the future when you have no choice but to refuse their request. If you're eating chocolate, for example, which can make dogs very sick, but your precious pooch will be so used to you giving them exactly what they want, they will get frustrated and even angry when you deny them. The American Veterinary Medical Association notes that feeding human food can condition dogs to expect food during human meal times. Not only does this lead to an increase in begging, but also to stress. Dogs do not understand food boundaries. They simply learn that your eating equals potential reward. To avoid spoiling your dog with an odd bite here and there so often that they lose all concept of what is appropriate, try to stick to dog-friendly snacks at designated times, not during your meals. Redirect begging with enrichment toys or healthy chews while you eat if you can. And as often as possible, reinforce patience. Reward calm behavior after meals to encourage self-control. Number 9. Your days as a proudly independent person are over. Whether you want them to be or not. You are blurry-eyed, pouring your first coffee, and there sitting on your feet is your dog, tail thumping away like a fluffy metronome. You stand up, they stand up. You go to the bathroom. And guess who's along for the ride? If you hop into the car, they'd probably try to help you drive. No corner of your vital morning routine goes untouched by that beaming music expectant face. It's sweet. Feels like love. Who wouldn't want that? Here's the thing. Right now it's fine, but with time it might not be. If your dog can't function without being glued to you, that's not just attachment. And overattachment is one of the most overlooked signs of a dog who's been unintentionally spoiled. When we give in to every request for attention, always let them follow us everywhere, and never teach them how to be alone, we create a dependency they're not equipped to handle. It's often a springboard to serious issues like overdependence, separation anxiety, and a painful drop in confidence if they are ever excluded. A clingy dog is happy only when with you. But you can't be home all day, can you? You've got jobs to work and stuff to do. If only there was a way to explain it to your dog. In his book, Dog Sense, the animal expert Dr. John Bradshaw explains that dogs are social creatures with deep instincts to belong. Dogs who constantly shadow their owners are significantly more likely to exhibit stress behaviors when left alone, including vocalizing, destructive chewing, or pacing. And very few people want to come home to a neighbor who is angry that your dog was barking all day or a cushion that's been chewed to smithereens. The key to breaking this habit before it escalates into something much worse is to teach gradual alone time. Start by stepping outside for 2 minutes, then 5. Building trust that you'll return. Then create a comfort zone. A cozy crate or mat with toys and treats helps them practice being alone and happy. What you're aiming for is what I'm going to call strategic inclusion. It is sweet to have them near. Just try to choose part of the day for presence and part for independent time. Being more confident alone will only make them a happier dog in the long run. But sometimes the closeness is not just physical. Number 8. Let's say your dog nudges your hand with their nose. Is the immediate response to pause everything and offer affection? Later, the dog may roll onto their back and give you that stare. What to do? Very tempting to pause and show mid-plot twist to provide emergency belly rubs. Showing physical affection is a beautiful thing. We all should absolutely give our dogs love. But when a dog learns that they can get instant cuddles anytime they demand it, it stops being about bonding. Dr. Patricia McConnell explains in The Other End of the Leash that when we reward demand-based affection constantly, dogs can struggle to understand boundaries. It teaches them that affection is something they're entitled to. And here's where it spirals. Dogs who expect constant attention can become frustrated when they don't get it. That frustration turns into purring, barking, whining. All because they've been unintentionally trained to believe that love equals now. So, how do you fix it without making them feel rejected? Start by rewarding calm behavior instead. Offer affection when they're lying down quietly, not when they're nudging you like a push notification. Use not now cues, a short phrase and hand signal that says, I see you, but not right this second. And build in structured cuddle time so they feel secure without having to beg for it. Because yes, a spoiled dog gets lots of love, but the best kind of love is the kind that helps them feel confident, not clingy. And speaking of things you can overdo, there's something else many owners give way too much of. Number 7. When we think of spoiled children, the main thing that jumps to mind is too many toys. But is too many toys also an issue for our precious pooches? If you've been kind and loving enough to bless your pup with a basket full of plush animals, squeaky bones, puzzle toys, and probably an old t-shirt or 9, your dog is living in a toy paradise. But there are issues with keeping them endlessly entertained and mentally stimulated. Because it's kind of the dog equivalent of having too many apps on their phone. As it may lead to short attention spans, decreased appreciation for each toy, and less patience. In a roundabout way, it's sort of a stepping stone toward the dog version of ADHD. And that is a much more frustrating and debilitating condition than many people realize. For that reason, instead of giving your dog constant access to a whole Toy Story trilogy's worth of toys, try rotating toys weekly to keep novelty high. Focus on quality over quantity. Interactive puzzle toys build problem-solving and patience. And if you have the time and energy, join play sessions to make toys socially rewarding, not just objects. But toys are not the only thing your dog might demand. Number 6. The leash is in the owner's hand, but the dog is zigzagging down the street, nose to the ground, practically pulling like a furry sledge team. Technically, it's an owner walking a dog, but sometimes it looks more like the other way around. Now, this doesn't inherently mean they are too spoiled. In fact, in some of our own videos, We've talked about occasionally letting a dog take charge during walks so they can feel some agency. But the most important word there is occasionally. In fact, that's the most important word in the whole video and could be used in every single topic we've discussed. If this is just the constant status quo, it may lead to confusion about leadership, pulling behaviors, and anxiety when they are not in control, which you may have to deny them from time to time, such as trying to get them home. In fact, the Association of Professional Dog Trainers states that inconsistent walk rules contributes to frustration-based leash reactivity as dogs learn they are in charge of the walk's flow. What we would advise is to mix expiration time with structured walking. Use a clear start and stop cue for sniffing breaks. And of course, reward following your lead with treats and praise. Now is the perfect time to crack out your best who's a good dog. And sometimes dogs even influence your entire day. Number 5. Dogs love a routine. And pretty quickly after welcoming a gorgeous new pup into your life, you'll see them start to adapt to your schedule and become one with it. For they are the schedule and the schedule is them. However, according to Dr. Karen overall, problems arise when they are not just participating in your routines, but actively leading and shaping them. Now, granted, they're not exactly taking a red pen to your calendar and shaking things up, but they can influence the rhythms of your day in subtle ways. Do you rearrange work calls to avoid disturbing your dog's naps? Do you skip plans because you feel guilty leaving them home alone? This may feel like you are respecting their needs, as dogs are man's best friend. But a friendship is a two-way street, and respecting their needs should not mean sacrificing your own. If your dog expects a little too much of your day to suit their needs, we'd strongly recommend gradually adding small routine changes to build flexibility, offering mental enrichment before you leave to shift focus, and rewarding calm behavior when returning instead of making reunions a big event. Number 4. If you move from the couch to the kitchen, there they are. If you step outside to grab the mail, they wait at the door, tail wagging. No matter where you go, your dog is with you. It means they're loyal and feel safest at your side. Here's the catch. A study published in the Journal of Veterinary Behavior in 2020 found that dogs who lack independent play or exploration are more prone to noise reactivity and social fearfulness. Or to put it bluntly, dogs that rely too much on being with their human have reduced social confidence, heightened fearfulness, and as a direct result of being more reserved miss out on vital experiences that build mental growth. In fact, research from Bristol University found that dogs who spend more time alone as puppies in safe, enriching environments showed lower anxiety levels later in life. Independence when nurtured early seems to be one of the best emotional investments you can make in your dog's future well-being. So, if you feel your dog is heading in the clingy direction, you've got options. First, encourage exploration. One simple trick trainers use is called the scatter game. Just toss a small handful of kibble or treats on the floor before leaving the room. It gives your dog a foraging mission and gently shifts their attention away from you. Second, socialize them gradually. Let them meet new people or dogs in calm, low-pressure settings. And finally, reward distance. Praise and treat them when they venture away from you, even briefly. Interestingly, one behavioral study found that dogs who were encouraged to make independent choices and then called back and rewarded had higher oxytocin spikes than those who simply followed their owners everywhere. In other words, a little space might actually make your bond stronger. Number 3. Who doesn't love it when their dog flops down on their human's pillow so they can snooze right next to their fave human's face? It's heart-melting to crawl into bed and find your best pal in the world curled up and waiting for you. You know the bad news is coming by now, right? On the upside, it is one of the ultimate signs of trust to be that vulnerable with you. According to Dr. Stanley Coren, author of How Dogs Think, dogs often choose to sleep where your scent is strongest because it provides emotional security. So, congrats to you. Your love is so strong that even your smell can make them feel safe. Ready for the bad bit? Now, if this becomes a nightly ritual, it can create boundary confusion. Dogs are masters of pattern recognition. If they sleep on your pillow every single night, they can start to see it as their territory rather than a shared space. And the problem is territorial ownership can lead to subtle behavioral shifts. When dogs feel ownership over specific areas, they can become slightly more possessive, even toward the person they adore the most. This does not mean you should ban them from the bed altogether. I promise to never give that advice about anything ever, especially if you love having them there. But if you notice them growling when you shift positions or giving you that move over human look, it's a clue they might be getting a little too comfortable calling the shots. Number 2, there's a chewed up shoe by the door. A mysterious puddle in the hallway. A dog ignores a recall again. But then comes that face. Soft eyes, floppy ears, tail wagging like nothing ever happened. In many homes, these moments get a pass. A sigh, a smile. The dog lives in a house full of affection and forgiveness. But when misbehavior is consistently overlooked because it's cute, something else takes root. Over time, this can lead to confusion, anxiety, and frustration. A dog who doesn't know what's expected of them can feel fully secure. According to behavior experts, dogs thrive on clear, consistent structure. It doesn't limit their joy, it protects it. Number 1. When a brand new person our dogs have never met enters our home, it can be a big deal. Our pups have a millisecond to make an assessment, and boy, do they make it. For some dogs, the mere presence of anyone new triggers them to unleash a crazy torrent of barking. When that happens, you may be inclined to think, oh, they're just looking out for me. Good news, you're right. Bad news, only kind of. Research by Dr. Adam McClosey, author of The Dog, A Natural History, shows that dogs are acutely tuned to human social bonds. When they feel firmly attached to a particular human, they often adopt that person as part of their core pack, which can trigger protective instincts like, howling at people entering their personal space. The problem is that excessive barking at guests is not just about protection. It can also be a sign of severe over-attachment. When dogs see you as their human in a possessive sense, they can get anxious about anyone else entering your shared space. It's an emotional mix of love, loyalty, and unfortunately, insecurity. According to a 2018 study in Applied Animal Behavior Science, dogs with higher separation-related anxiety were more likely to display protective or possessive barking behaviors. This doesn't mean your dog is mean or aggressive. It means they love you so much that they feel responsible for guarding you. Every day, there's one moment your dog is waiting for. Tail still, eyes fixed, and you might walk right past it without even knowing it. Think about the moment you wake up every morning. I don't mean when you jump out of bed or, depending on energy levels, roll and race to the coffee machine. I mean literally the millisecond you stir awake. Depending on whether you rise easily or need a lot of effort like an inflatable castle, there will be a few seconds to a few minutes between you waking up and you finally stepping out of bed. If your dog is in the room with you, this pause between waking and rising is a big deal to your dog. Renowned canine psychologist Dr. Stanley Coren has a phrase for this that perfectly sums up why it's so magical. The moment of mutual attunement. Basically, your dog senses that you are awake. Their powerfully sensitive ears and noses pick up on the micro changes in your body like secret signals imperceptible to other humans. They feel your shift from sleep to wakefulness through subtle changes in your breathing, heartbeat, and muscle tension. When you sit still in bed, your dog is watching, breathing in sync with you, feeling the security of your presence in stillness. That is why I would argue you should wake up slowly. I mean, obviously, sometimes you will have no choice but to rush out, roll over, and start your day in a blur. That's the truth of life. But if you have the option, always take things slow. Or else you are robbing your dog of a crucial grounding moment. A moment that reassures them that their pack leader, that's you, is present, calm, and ready. This brief pause gives your dog a chance to prepare emotionally for the day ahead, setting the tone of connection and quiet confidence, which is why it's one of the many moments your dog waits for every day. But there are so many others, including, despite the reputation they have, deservedly so, of being loud, attention-seeking goofballs, your dog has a lot more love for quiet moments than you might think. Imagine you've had a long, hard day at work. I'm sure that's not something you need to imagine too hard. You kick off your shoes, give your doggo the hello they've been waiting for since you left 8 hours ago, then make your way to the couch, ready to plop down and binge watch until your eyes turn square. But, and I don't want to sound more judgmental than a librarian when someone decides to speak in anything louder than a whisper, You might be sitting on your couch wrong. For your dog, the moment you sit down is a moment of intense anticipation. Because to them, your settling onto the couch signals the start of their most treasured music ritual, relaxed companionship. A study published in Anthro found that dogs are exquisitely sensitive to their owner's body language during these transition moments. They actually prepare themselves emotionally and physically to join you, to share your space, your warmth, your quiet presence. If you plop down too quickly, jump up again, or seem distracted, it has the potential to interrupt this emotional rhythm. Your dog may feel unsettled, as if the invitation to closeness has been suddenly withdrawn. That's why, if you can, it is best to savor that moment. It's your dog's cue that it's time to bond without words. No commands, no fuss, just mutual presence. What you'll find as we go through this video is that lots of the things that mean a lot to dogs are the quiet moments. One example of that is they actually love the break between petting sessions as much as the petting. More on that in a bit. But before that, there's another moment that's before something special your dog adores. There is a particular word beginning with W that all dogs adore. That's right. Watermelon. No, just kidding. It's walks. Although, having made that joke, many dogs do love watermelon. But a quick bonus fact: be sure to remove the seeds before treating your dog to some. Also, make sure it's chopped up into small, easy-to-digest pieces so there's no choking hazards, and avoid giving them any rind, right? So, walking. Now, to your dog, this is one of those obviously joyful events. A truly special bonding moment between your dog and you. But there's a moment before the walk even begins that you might disregard as music. Just a step on the journey, but your dog is the delicious appetizer before the main meal. And that's the moment you open the door. Now, that instant, your dog catches the scent of fresh air, the sounds of the outside world, and senses the promise of adventure before you even step outside. As Dr. James Serbell points out, dogs experience the environment largely through scent and sound. The moment the door opens is a sensory floodgate, releasing excitement, curiosity, and readiness. If you rush through the door, jostling the leash and keys, your dog misses the emotional buildup. That pause, that subtle inhale of possibility is like the overture before a symphony and should be cherished. So, let them take that in for a second before you charge out there into the great unknown. While we're on the subject of doors, there's another door-based moment your dog holds out for, and it might surprise you because it feels like an insult. I'm talking about when you get up and leave a room, but your dog stays behind. Studies of canine separation behavior, including work from Dr. and Nicholas Dodman, show that dogs use scent marking and resting rituals to reassure themselves emotionally. Now, this quiet moment is your dog's way of mentally bookmarking your presence. Something of a reset to their emotional security. They're not just processing your absence. They're reinforcing their attachment to your scent, presence, and routine. If you hurry back or create unpredictable patterns, you might disrupt their sense of stability. Now, I mentioned we'd talk about petting, didn't I? It should go without saying that dogs love a good petting session. Although, having said that, they have particular ways they like to be touched and ways they don't. But a recurring motif of this video is how much the little gaps, the pauses between the action mean just as much to them, if not more sometimes, than the big moments. Dr. Karen Overall, a veterinary behaviorist, explains that these pauses help dogs regulate their arousal levels during interaction, preventing overstimulation or anxiety. Because petting is a flow of affection and sensory input. Music. When you suddenly stop for a second, just a soft lingering hand on their fur, your dog can process music, savor, and respond emotionally. If you rush from one petting spot to another, or continuously rub without a break, you might be overwhelming your dog. When you're giving them an epic petting session, you might think they're loving every second. But the number one moment they might be waiting for is the moment when you stop, if only for a second or two. And our music day ends where it began, in bed. It's time for your dog and you to both go to sleep, whether you share a bed or not, so that you can both rest up, then wake up and start this whole cycle of precious little moments together all over again. And as they are preparing to doze off for the night, there's one final moment they are waiting for. In attachment to pets by Dr. Alan Beck and Dr. Aaron Katcher, they explain that physical closeness before sleep, music, helps dogs regulate stress and solidify social bonds. Right before your dog drifts off to sleep, they will often give you a gentle nuzzle or soft touch. This is their way of seeking comfort, reassurance, and connection. It's a subtle social gesture rooted deep in pack instincts. While the temptation can be to rush off to bed yourself, especially if you're exhausted, sharing this moment with your dog and nuzzling them back is huge for them. They watch you, judge you, and they've already made up their mind. You just haven't noticed the signs yet. Some are subtle, some sting a little, but they all reveal exactly what your dog really thinks of you. Shifting closer in their sleep. Dogs can even let us know what they feel about us when they're asleep by showcasing subconscious attachment. If your dog subtly shifts closer to you while sleeping, even without waking fully, experts think this is a clear expression that they feel safe and trust you. In fact, in lab sleep studies, dogs have been recorded subtly wagging their tails while dreaming, but only when sleeping next to their favorite human. And if you have more than one dog, the one that curls up closest to you isn't necessarily the most dominant. It's usually the one who's most emotionally bonded to you. Physical closeness during rest is their way of saying, "You're my person." So, if you wake up and notice they've scooted their butts against your leg or placed a paw on your foot, that means your dog doesn't even need to think to know they like being near you. Pausing before coming. Now, brace yourself because this one may sting worse than headbutting a hornet's nest. You're standing in the kitchen or out in the garden. You call your dog's name and there's a pause, just a flicker, a moment where they don't move. Not yet. Now, to the untrained eye, this may look like a classic case of defiance, stubbornness even. But inside your dog's head, a storm fierce enough to shipwreck Prospero is raging. Your dog isn't ignoring you, they're thinking. Because it's easy to think of dogs as bundles of instinct, but they're a lot more emotional than we give them credit for. They think, feel, and assess. And in that tiny pause, they are measuring everything about the moment. Not just the command itself, but you. Heavy stuff, right? Scientists have looked into this naturally. Research on canine cognitive bias, like the study by McEwan and colleagues in 2014, found that dogs do not simply hear a word and act. They evaluate. They consider the tone of your voice, your recent behavior, and the tension in your body. Did you scold them earlier? Did you raise your voice just now? Are you tense, tired, or annoyed? That pause is not rebellion. Think of it more as emotional arithmetic. It is your dog's way of saying, "I want to come to you, but I need to know I'm being called for a good thing." And if they do come to you, even with that hesitation, that's a moment of quiet bravery because you might have done something that worried them earlier. Maybe you yelled at the TV when watching tennis and they're confused why you'd be so angry at lovely tennis balls and they don't know that anger won't reach them. If you notice it is happening, try softening your voice. Try crouching down a little, opening your body, letting them see your safe ground. Welcome them. Because when a dog has doubts and still chooses you, that's not a failure of training. That's just thinking before they act. I flick. Your dog is busy. They've got a hectic life. I mean, at least by dog standards. I'm not saying they're a CEO or anything. And when you're sitting on the couch with them, you might find that they're totally preoccupied with the little tasks they've set for themselves. Whether that be the challenging undertaking of chewing a toy or the even harder task of trying to snooze. Yet, despite what they're doing, their eyes keep quickly flicking at you for a microsecond before they return their attention to the task at hand. And if you look closely, you might even catch a fluttery little blink. Not the slow, sultry kinds, music, do. Dogs blink more when they're relaxed and happy. In a 2012 study published in Animal Cognition, researchers found that dogs look back at their owners to seek emotional referencing in uncertain contexts. Because while dogs act independent, in their heart and mind, they are tethered to you. If they keep looking at you, if only for a moment, even when they don't need to during those alone times, it means they care enough about you and need you enough to want to touch base. You're their reference point, their compass. Even in stillness or silence, you're the one they're quietly orbiting around. Now, there's a little more about eyes that I want to talk about. specifically the phenomenon known as whale eyes. But to truly understand whale eyes, there's something else we should touch upon. First, head turn. Because they are irresistible, you will occasionally lean down to kiss your dog on the head. And when you do, they might silently turn their head away. Now, lots of pet parents to precious pooches interpret this as adorable shyness. But is that true? Let me be the dog translator here. It is actually what professional behaviorists call a calming signal, a way to cool down when they feel stressed or anxious. Tori Droga sums it up in her On Talking Terms with Dogs when she writes that turning the head or averting the gaze is a polite way for dogs to diffuse social pressure. Now, it's totally fine, of course, to kiss and hug your dog. What a dreadful world it would be if we weren't. But read their reactions. If they lean into you, they're feeling it at that moment. But if they turn away, they're possibly trying to let you know that while they love you, physical affection is just a bit much right now, and it doesn't matter why, a no is a no. At that moment, they think, I love you, but I need a break. But they can also use the other end of their body to tell you what they think about you. Don't worry, I don't mean there but. The slow motion wag. You don't need a dog expert to tell you that a fast tail wag is a sign of a happy dog. Or do you? Because truth be told, there's more nuance to the specifics of tail wagging than there is to some human languages. From speed to rhythm to stiffness of tail, everything about how your dog wags their tail is a part of the overall message they are trying to send. And it's these slower wags, the ones that are almost in bullet time, I think are worth talking about. Dr. Stanley Coren notes that a slow wag that involves the whole back end usually signals a relaxed affiliative state and is directed toward individuals the dog feels emotionally secure with. So when you say, who's a good boy? And they start the lazy happy sway, that's kind of a dog saying, your voice is my favorite sound in the world. If your dog wags their tail fast when they hear you, that's great. They're a happy dog. But if they wag their tail in a slower, lazier way, well, that's a whole higher echelon of companionship. Whale eye. Now, I've touched upon a dog's eyes, and I've touched upon dogs turning their heads. But there is something very crucial dogs convey that requires both those things at once. It is perhaps one of the biggest red flags your dog can plant. Something to keep a watch out for. It's called whale eye, and you'll want to adjust your antics pretty quickly if your dog does it. Whale eye is when your dog keeps looking at you but turns their head, causing you to see the whites of their eyes as they do. That's not just a goofy pose. A 2009 study in applied animal behavior science explains that increased scar exposure often correlates with discomfort or conflict in dogs. Now, don't worry. It doesn't mean they dislike you overall, but it means that in that moment, your dog may just be tolerating your touch rather than actively enjoying it. Maybe they're tired. Maybe they're guarding a chew toy. If you see this often, check how and when you're touching them. Because love means respecting that they're allowed to say, not now. After that, you probably want to hear something more positive. I imagine the micro lick. Lots of the things on this list are pretty big gestures that it's kind of hard to miss. But there are some blink and you miss it ways your dog communicates with you that you are going to want to try to keep an eye out for. The absolute classic is the quick lick of the lips, like they've just had a donut and are dealing with sugar. When people do catch it, a common misconception is to assume that it is a sign that they are anticipating food or just trying to wet some rather dry lips. But you know how earlier we were talking about Rugas's theory of calming signals? This is yet another. She writes that dogs will lick their lips as a subtle gesture to ease social tension. Now, this doesn't mean your dog feels tense. Emotional world that they do not need to keep checking your pulse. They already trust you. They trust the space. They trust the relationship. And they trust that if something important happens, they will know and you will show up. Number 2, your dog spluts around you. All of us dog lovers are familiar with splitting. Even if you've never heard the word splitting before, you will have seen your dog doing it. But what exactly is it? In short, splitting is that dramatic belly flat, legs behind them, sort of like a frog pose many dogs do from time to time. If you're still not sure what splitting is, the image in the thumbnail of this video is the perfect example. Many people think that this pose is simply a silly stretch, but it is so much more than that. I like to think of it as a full-body declaration of safety. A dog in the midst of splitting is a dog whose muscles are fully relaxed. A dog who is completely off-duty. And that level of comfort does not appear in dogs who are worried or defensive. So, if your dog casually spluts near you, congratulations. Music. You have raised a dog who trusts the ground itself when you are near. But if we're going to talk about weird things do with their bodies, music, we need to talk about their tails. Number 3. Slow tail drifts. Now, if I were to walk into your house and say, "Hey, what do you think dogs do with their tails when feeling happy?" You'd probably say, "What are you doing in my house?" But then you might say, "Well, they frantically spin it around like helicopter blades." And to be fair, yes. A chaotically twirling tail is obviously a good sign. That means they are at peak levels of excitement. But a dog who is truly feeling content and calm, well, they express themselves in a way that might seem a touch counterintuitive. Because a truly content dog will gently and simply sway their tail from left to right like a paintbrush being used by Bob Ross in one of his soothing demonstrations. So, in her book, Man Meets Dog, the ethologist Conrad Loren wrote that a relaxed, droopy tail like that moves in loose and sweeping motion suggests the dog is in an emotional state of calm recognition. So, while it may seem depressed and droopy compared to helicopter tail, a relaxed tail that moves in loose sweeping motions is a perfect example of how a dog raised with love doesn't always need a huge and bombastic showcase to let their human know how loved they feel. In fact, sometimes they may go so far as to do something that outright looks like a snub. Number 4. Your dog shows you their back. Now, if someone you care about turned their back on you mid-con conversation, it would be totally logical to assume you had offended them. If you were chatting to them, it would feel flat-out rude. So, for many pet parents to precious pooches, when their dog does it to them, they naturally jump to a similar conclusion. But in her book, Inside of a Dog, the canine scientist Alexandra Horowitz writes about how when dogs turn their back on you, it is actually a sign of both confidence, music, and trust. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but hey, that's music. What this whole video is all about, isn't it? As Dr. Horowitz goes on to explain, a dog who presents their back in calm situations is performing what she likes to call a vulnerability display that relies entirely on social trust. It's the exact same reason dogs will relax while facing away from their guardians outdoors. They are essentially saying, "Right, you can watch the world for us because I know I can let my guard down. Cheers, mate." Though sometimes you don't have to interpret their actions, because they get vocal. Number 5. Your dogs sigh around you. Sometimes our dogs huff. Sometimes our dogs puff. They sit there on the floor sighing like a 71-year-old man who has just been slapped with a tax bill bigger than Mount Everest. It seems bonkers, right? Their lives are perfect. They get free hugs, free food, and free shelter. What do they have to complain about? Well, this is yet another example of something your dog does which implies one thing when the reverse is actually true. Because sometimes dogs don't sigh. Because they're grumbling. Music. Sometimes they sigh because they're feeling content. According to a study published in the Journal of Veterinary Behavior, relaxed sigh are associated with transition into low arousal states influenced by proximal social comfort. The authors wrote that these signs appear most often during periods of quiet companionship with trusted humans. The less sciencey way of explaining this is this. A stressed dog breathes fast. Music. A worried dog holds their breath. In short bursts. But a secure dog breathes with their whole body. If your dog sighs when they settle next to you, I like to think of it as the closest they have to a way of saying thank you. Number 6. Your dog walks ahead of you without looking back too much. If when taking your gorgeous dog for a walk, they have a habit of charging ahead, never even bothering to look back, you might assume they are trying to be in charge. And that's an issue, music. Because you're supposed to be the head of the pack. You're the one who pays the rent or mortgage after all. In fact, in previous videos of mine, I've talked about how it can be a really positive sign if your dog likes to look back at you and check in when going for a walk. But secure dogs who trust their humans often walk ahead for a very different, very positive reason. You know how if you have a friend you're super close with, you can sit in the room together without needing to talk to each other because you're so comfy and familiar. with each other that the quiet vibes are enough. What we're talking about here is kind of your dog's version of that. They feel safe exploring because you've proven that you will never let them down and will always follow. They know they do not need to check with you constantly. Researchers call this, and strap in because this is a mouthful, autonomous exploration in secure attachment contexts. Woo. So, if your dog walks a few steps ahead, but glances back occasionally with that look that says, "You're coming. Yeah, you're coming. Cool. You have done something, music. Right? They are confident." Number 7. Your dog enjoys time alone but wants you nearby when they return. Psychologist Mary Ainsworth, whose work on attachment is often referenced in canine behavior studies, Music wrote that secure attachment is marked by comfort with distance and enthusiasm upon reunion. Now granted, she worked with human infants, not dogs, but her research has come to form the backbone of how modern canine behavior experts understand secure and insecure attachment in dogs. Some poor pups can really struggle with being left alone because if we follow the Ainsworth theory, their attachment with their pet parent is not secure. But dogs were raised with gentleness and security. Now, a topic we return to time and time again on this channel is the sad but necessary topic of separation anxiety. They swiftly learn that solitude is not abandonment. It is simply a quiet moment. Music. So, while a dog with unstable or anxious attachment might panic when their person leaves, music, or swing the other way and get very clingy when their human returns, a securely raised dog will rest alone in another room, enjoy the peace, then trot back in later with a relaxed expression as if to say, "Oh, hello. You're back." You rub their ears. You say, "I love you," 100 times a day. But what if the way you show love is the very thing that's pushing them away? There are 7 things owners do without realizing it that make their dog feel completely unloved. Number 7. Hugs, kisses, squeezing their fluffy face because it's just too cute to handle. This is how humans show love. But dogs have their own social norms and many of our affectionate gestures don't translate. In fact, in one study 81% of dogs showed signs of stress or discomfort, like lip licking or yawning when being hugged by their owners. That's a big chunk of dogs pretending they're cool with it when they're really not. Canine body language. Expert Tor Drogas has described how dogs basically tolerate hugging because they can tell we're into it. Sort of like going to watch a band you hate just because your partner loves them. They might be physically present, but they don't truly enjoy it. And face-to-face pressure could be even worse. In dog language, placing your paws or head over another's shoulders is a dominance move, not a hug. So when we wrap our arms around them, they don't think, "Oh, love." They think, "Wait, music. Am I being challenged?" The big problem here is that if you keep doing it, music, because you like it, your dog may come to associate you being physically close to them with feeling discomfort. And this can escalate to them turning their head away or quietly walking off. Some dogs take it a step further. They'll do a deep sigh, then physically reposition themselves with their back to you. That's a cutoff signal, their way of de-escalating emotional tension. If things reach the point of their body stiffening or them unleashing the dreaded whale eye, it's definitely time to reassess how much you use human-style physicality in your love language. One viral study analyzed thousands of dog selfies and found that in over half of them, the dog was showing visible stress signs. Whale eye, tight mouth, ears back because of how close owners leaned in. Number 6. When your dog is scared, it's instinctive to rush in, scoop them up, and shower them with love, snorts, maybe even baby talk until your voice cracks. But here's the thing, that kind of intense comfort, especially if it involves restraining or hovering, can sometimes backfire. Dogs don't always show fear the way we expect. One of the most overlooked signs is freezing. They seem still and quiet. So, music. It's easy to assume they're calm. But in many cases, freezing is the dog version of shutting down. It's not peace, it's panic without motion. If they don't get a chance to decompress on their own terms, like stepping away or taking a moment, the fear doesn't really leave their body. That's why many dogs will do a full body shake-off after a scary moment. It's like a physical reset, a nervous system reboot. And when that's interrupted, the stress can linger longer than it needs to. Some dogs even establish their own little safe zones for situations like this. Weirdly specific places like the laundry basket, behind the toilet, or curled up in the bathtub. And in those moments, just being allowed to retreat quietly is sometimes the comfort they need most. When dogs aren't given that space, they might start pulling away when they're feeling overwhelmed. Not because they don't love you, but because they're trying to protect their own emotional threshold. And love for them needs to feel safe and calm, not intense or unpredictable. Number 5. If your dog starts furiously barking at a stranger or howling at the thunder, it's natural to feel the need to calm them down. Nobody wants constant barking or ringing in their ears. But here's the thing. Often that's not misbehaving. It's fear. So, let's say you're scared of spiders. Now, imagine that every time you saw one, someone yelled at you for reacting. Being scared is already hard. Getting punished for it only adds confusion and hurt. And they're paying close attention to you in those moments. Dogs use something called social referencing. They literally watch your face to figure out how to feel. If your body tenses up or you seem upset, they mirror that emotion. But if your presence is calm and steady, it helps them regulate. Even just being near them helps. In one study, shelter dogs who are comforted during storms showed a measurable drop in cortisol, the stress hormone. Your gentle voice, your hand resting near them. That's not just kindness, it's chemistry. Number 4. Dinner should be a special time. Families come together at dinner time not just to get their calories up, but to bond. And when it comes to your dog, nobody's denying that treats can be a fantastic way to build trust, music, teach skills, or offer comfort in tough moments. But there's a subtle difference between rewarding and relying on rewards. If food starts becoming the only bridge, sit for a treat, cuddle for a treat, come over only if there's a biscuit, turn the TV on for a snack, bark a Shakespeare quote for a sausage. The emotional connection can start to feel more like a transaction. Dogs can start associating closeness with needing to do something instead of just being. And it turns out that has emotional consequences. Researchers have found that dogs trained only with food were less likely to seek out their person when feeling anxious. It's as if comfort felt conditional, even if that was never the intention. And here's another little wrinkle. In shelter environments, dogs who show connection and responsiveness without needing treats are often adopted more quickly. There's something about that unfiltered presence, that I'm here because I want to be energy that speaks straight to the heart. So, if you notice that treats have become your main go-to for connection, it might be a great moment to rebalance. Keep the treats, but mix in more free affection, quiet companionship, or a good belly rub just because love lands deeper when it doesn't have strings attached. And while we're talking about rewards, number 3, dogs want to please us, and that's a good thing. But there's an important subsection to this where things can get problematic. Music. So, you're going to want to be careful. They can want to please us so badly that we can accidentally teach them to suppress natural needs. So let's say your dog makes it very clear they'd love to pop outside to relieve themselves. Maybe you can tell them to wait, so they hold it. You praise them for being good. It seems innocuous. A little control is a good thing. But if you repeat this too often, you teach them that expressing needs gets ignored and it's better to repress how they feel. A study in applied animal behavior science warns that chronic frustration of natural behaviors can lead to emotional suppression and apathy. Over time, your dog may stop signaling altogether. And the problem is a few too many pet parents to precious pooches mistake this suppression as maturity when in truth it's emotional shutdown. And why the dickens would they love anyone who has made that feeling necessary? Number 2, if you've watched any of my videos before, you'll know how much I talk about the importance of routine to dogs. They love a habit. They want to observe the rhythms and rhymes of your day-to-day, and they want to sync with them. In one music study, dogs trained to anticipate a walk at exactly the same time each day began standing by the door up to 30 minutes in advance. Not because of the clock, but because their internal circadian rhythms synced with their owner's routine. That's how deeply they tune into our lives. Except dogs aren't wired for rigidity. On average, dogs stop to sniff every 6 feet during a walk. Not because they're distracted, but because each sniff contains about 40 times more data than a full page of text. For them, sniffing is the walk. Now, according to ethologist Adam McClosey, that's no way for a dog to live their life. In lab tests, dogs given a predictable routine with no variation showed fewer tail wags and less interest in toys over time as signs of emotional flatness. Researchers compare to mild, music, canine depression. When a dog stops nudging you for attention or hesitates to bring you toys, it's not always a mood thing. Often, it's because they've learned those needs won't be met. Similar to how children eventually stop asking questions if they're constantly dismissed. Number 1. If a pet parent makes the innocent mistake of doing a few too many of these things, they may find themselves with a dog that seems well behaved. They're calm, quiet, they don't demand attention anymore. But sometimes that's not peace. In dog psychology, Martin Seligman coined a term for this: learned helplessness. He defines it as when dogs stop attempting to change their environment after repeated experiences of uncontrollable outcomes. Some classic signs that a poor pup may be going down this road include they follow commands immediately but never offer playful gestures. They sit quietly near you but don't approach for affection. They wait for instructions rather than initiating interactions. Many owners beam proudly. Music. Wow, my dog is so mellow now. I'm so great. But hold your horses, Karen. Your dog has simply learned that expressing emotions doesn't work with you. If this sounds familiar, it means they need you to start listening again. Thankfully, your dog's love doesn't disappear overnight. You brush your teeth, turn off the lights, and never realize your dog is still waiting for something. How you say goodnight matters more than you think. And if you get it wrong, your dog goes to sleep feeling unloved every single night. In fact, your bedtime routine can shape how your dog feels about you, even while they sleep. Give them a soft emotional send-off. Dr. Stanley Coren, music, K9 psychologist, explains that dogs, like humans, process emotional memories during sleep. The last emotion they feel before bed is one they will stew in all night. Let's say you've been rushing around the house like a sugar-fueled toddler on roller skates, dealing with the trials and tribulations we call life. Finally, exhausted, you throw yourself into bed. The energy of that moment lingers with them. They carry your pre-bedtime tension into their rest. One study from the University of Vienna found that dogs' heart rates sync with their owners during calm, affectionate contact. You can quite literally slow their heartbeat with your own. A calm, quiet moment between chores and bedtime can shift the energy completely and help your dog settle with you. As little as 3 minutes of soothing interactions is enough to offer the emotional palate cleansing required. And it's nice and easy. No special training required. Just scratch behind the ears, rub their chest, or just sit quietly with them while you breathe slowly. And there's one more easy thing you can do. Dim the lights early. Melatonin, music, the hormone that helps regulate sleep, is triggered by changes in light. Research from Dr. Christina Schenk at the University of Zurich Music showed that dogs begin producing melatonin when exposed to low warm light, especially if this happens at the same time every evening. You know how humans start feeling sleepy when the lights dim? Well, dogs are the same. If you always keep the bright white ceiling lights on until the moment you head to bed, your dog does not get that gradual signal that they are on their way to the land of naught. For them, it feels like playtime 1 second, bedtime. And that hard context switch is challenging. So, it's super recommended to ease them into nighttime. Music. To be honest, this is good for us humans as well. If possible, switch to soft yellow-toned lighting at least 30 minutes before bed to send a message to your dog that it's time to wind down. And what you'll find is over time they will get so used to it that they start to yawn and stretch almost automatically when the music lights dim because their body learns that this light change means rest is coming. Release lingering energy with one last sniff. Now sometimes dogs cannot settle because their body is holding on to leftover energy. And according to Dr. Alexander Horowitz, the dog's version of a nice long session on the Headspace app is to spend the evening sniffing away. Just 5 minutes of sniffing can tire them out more than a half-hour walk because it engages their brains so, music, intensely. If you have a restless pup, I hugely recommend taking them outside for a moment. Maybe just into the back garden to have one last sniff safari, a sniffari, if you will. Even letting them sniff a few plants or a single tree can fulfill that deep instinct to explore and check the news of their environment before bed. According to Dr. Emily Blackwell at the University of Bristol, any nosework activities can significantly lower stress levels in dogs, even in very short bursts. If there's no way you can get your dog outside that late in the evening, create small indoor sensory experiences like puzzle toys or even just scattering a few treats on a mat to unleash their smell senses and spend all of their leftover energy on a mental workout. Relax together like you mean it. You know, cortisol. Does the hormone cause stress and anxiety? Well, Dr. Sandra McCune, animal behaviorist at Waltham Pet Care Science Institute, has found that calm social contact before rest literally reduces cortisol levels in dogs. This means that relaxing together, and no, I don't mean just petting, I mean a really good side-by-side relaxation session, can help reduce it and make their upcoming sleep feel better. Think of it as cuddling with your partner before bed and how they can make you feel more relaxed before you drift away into the land of Nod. And that's backed up by the Harvard researcher Dr. Deary Barrett, who in her work analyzing dogs' dreams determined that the average precious pooch replays their daily experiences as they snooze. You can literally affect their dreams. So why not make them happy ones? Sit or lie with them in a comfortable spot for at least 5 minutes. Stroke slowly, avoiding stimulating areas like paws or tails. Speak softly, almost like you would to a baby. Some owners even hum or read out loud. Studies into this have revealed that dogs respond positively to slow rhythmic speech, which mimics the soothing effect of lullabies. And here's the fun part. Dogs may actually dream about you afterwards. Let them patrol the den with you. Okay, I'm about to suggest something that you might think is bonkers, but hear me out. If you ever have the chance to watch wild dogs before they sleep, you'll notice they always do something. They circle the area, sniffing before they plop down. It's something you'll no doubt recognize as your dog does the same. While dogs do this in order to ensure that all is well and that they are safe, a necessity when you sleep outside. But due to that same instinct lingering in their DNA, your domesticated dog does the same. We know that there are no goblins in the house that can hurt them, but hey, they don't. So, here's my bonkers suggestion. If you have a particularly restless pup who performs bigger and longer security laps before bed than usual, why not join in or even invite them to come on a quick security patrol with you? Walk through the rooms you use the most. Perhaps open some closets, look inside, and say, "All good." I know it sounds a little crazy, but Dr. Mark Beckoff, ethologist, notes that shared routines in general, including cooperative checking, can really reinforce social bonds in dogs. They are pack animals after all, so any kind of teamwork will always play well. While we're on the subject of dogs in the wild, they get to choose where they sleep, for they are masters of their domain. But it may be worth exploring that principle at home. Let them choose their sleep spot. Have you ever seen your dog hesitate before lying down? Maybe they look at their usual bed, then at you, then back again. This is because dogs are what's called a situational sleeper, which means they sometimes crave a change of sleeping arrangement. A study published in Applied Animal Behavior Science found that dogs shift to sleeping locations based on literally everything from temperature to perceived safety and even just random social cues. Forcing them to stick to one spot can create mild anxiety. And this is a huge issue for most dogs, but is especially true if your dog is a rescue. If you have a particularly sensitive dog, it's hugely recommended to give them the option of where to sleep. Though, to be honest, I'd recommend it for literally any dog, even the most confident and self-assured. Maybe tonight they want their own bed, but tomorrow they want to be at your feet. Some dogs even prefer a different room for a night or two. Giving them the choice tells them their comfort matters to you. It's their house as well. Invite them to stretch with you. A relaxed body leads to a relaxed mind. Dogs naturally stretch when they feel safe. You've probably seen them do a deep bow or extend their legs before plopping down for rest during the day. When you see them do it, try gently scratching their sides or chest while they're still in that stretched out position. It encourages them to hold the stretch longer, turning it into a moment of shared calm. And just before bed, you can even help them stretch with soft guidance. When they're lying on their side, try gently extending one of their front and back legs outward just until you feel light resistance. Then release. Use slow, smooth movements and watch their body language closely. This kind of passive stretching can help older dogs or stiff joints unwind after the day. Always be gentle and skip this if your dog shows any discomfort. If your dog shows any signs of discomfort, like pulling their leg away, licking their lips, or giving you that wide whale eye look, just stop. But if they stay relaxed, eyes half closed, and let you move gently without resistance, then you've just created one of the calmest ways to say goodnight. Dr. Karen Overall explains that these movements help lower muscle tension and send calming signals to the brain. That's why bedtime is the perfect moment to invite your dog into a gentle wind down. Follow it with a closing ceremony phrase. A consistent bedtime cue like, all done good night. Dogs thrive on patterns, and repeating the same phrase each night teaches them that this is the final and official end of the day. There's a reason some dogs seem more confident, more connected, more at ease. Their owners do things differently in small but powerful ways. Watch this next. Things for watching and like and subscribe, share please.